Jai Govinda Das, Subal Saka, Krishna Pramodani, Namachintamani Devi Dasi, Mitra Vinda Desi Dasi, Lakshmanagra Jai Raman Reti Das, Jambavan Das, Astasaki Devi Dasi, and Abhinandana, which I think is Ishwari Radha Devi Dasi, and ourselves, Hanumatpresaka Swami. So welcome to everybody. And today's class is in English. Hoy la presentación es inglés. Y mañana miércoles es castellano o español. Es español. Okay. Who can be our chief guest? Subal Saka, you want to be our chief guest?
Yes, Gurudeva. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and Gurudev.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari.
Gopi Janabalabha Girivaradhari.
Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari.
Yashoda Nandana Vraja Janaranjana.
Yashoda Nandana Vraja Janaranjana.
Yamuna Tira Vanachari.
Yamuna Tira Vanachari.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari.
Gopi Janabalava Girivaradhari.
Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari.
Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana.
Yashoda Nandana Vraja Janaranjana.
Jamuna Tiravana Chori.
Yamuna Tira Vanachari.
Shishi Radha Madhava Astasaki ki jai, Chaitanya
Jai.
Chaitanya ki jai. Narayanam Namaskrityam
Narayanam Namaskrityam
Naram Chaiva Narottamam
Naranchaiva Narottamam
Devam Saraswatim Vyasam
Devim Saraswatim Vyasam
Tato Jayamudirayat.
Tato Jayamudirayet.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 So we are trying to consolidate our studies of Srimad Bhagavatam. That's our personal effort, and other people can be doing other things. So in that perspective, we're doing this diary of a traveling creature, the ultimate trip. And we have here this PowerPoint show we found, and look at what we've done before. And here is, I don't know why it's not becoming bigger. There's some reason it refuses to get bigger. Well, there it is. Okay. Yeah. So I've expanded here. There we go. And this one is very short. It looks like it has world classical literature. It's one of the areas we're trying to work in. Sankirtan. Because our whole goal is to preach Srimad Bhagavatam. We'll get the potency, the Shakti, the power to preach Srimad Bhagavatam. I think we have to minimize this. Bring it up. There we go. Okay. Yes. Okay. So we did this one. It shows the Quran as world classical literature. It shows the Krishna book as world classical literature. Then 1001 Arabian Nights. And we have the Little Flowers of St. Francis in Christian tradition. And finally, on the right here, we have Journey to the West, which is this whole story of Monkey and Piggy. And this has been a very good sample, I think, of world classical literature, something. Definitely, it will get us connected. And so if somebody, for example, reads the Little Flowers of St. Francis, well, definitely have a connection with the Bible and all those other literatures. Okay. When ambulance is going by. Okay. And then we're taking specifically database.io, library Krishna book. And I'm not sure exactly where we went here. But that was then going to the Krishna book is the world classical literature that we feel is very, very important, the central part of many things. So I'm not sure what's up on the web exactly, but this is one of the shows we found on our basic disk. Because we're trying to consolidate everything. Okay. We're consolidating everything into the Maha Mantra. Yeah. Because the Maha Mantra has to have meaning, depth. Before you die, when you die. Vinupadeshamrita. B-bag also, then we have a little USB drive. There it is. Okay, I can see this here. Can't see it. No. There it is. It is a monkey. Okay.
Yes, Gurudeva.
Disappearing. Okay. So I think we chose about 512 megabytes because that's, we don't need any more than that. You don't have to know so much, but you have to know what you know well. That's kind of the idea. Okay. So Prabhupada says a little bit about everything and a lot about one thing. So here's it's called ILIC. That's the name of our drive. And we go then to, looks like Diary of a Traveling Creature. That's not it. We go then to American Bhagavad Curriculum. And we go to Sankirtan. And then we find another Diary of a Traveling Creature. And here it is, Diary of a Traveling Creature, Ultimate Trip. So we looked at World Classical Literature number 1. Now let's look at number 2. It may already be open. It is. Okay. Yeah. And this is part 2, Diary of a Traveling, the Ultimate Trip. Here we're introducing the Ramayana. Okay. And of course, the Krishna book, we can go to the whole Srimad Bhagavatam. And here it is, Srimad Bhagavatam 1 to 322. Please repeat. Naradeva tvam apanaha.
Naradeva tam apanna.
Surakarya chakirshaya.
Surakarya chikirshaya.
Samudra nigahadini.
Samudra nigrahadini.
Chakre viryani ataparam.
Chakre viryani ataparam.
So you chant and we will listen.
Naradeva tvam apanna.
Naradeva tvam apanaha.
Surakarya chikirshaya.
Surakarya chikirshaya.
Samudra nigrahadini.
Samudra nigrahadini.
Chakre viryani ataparam.
Chakre viryani ataparam. Another devotee can chant. Another gentleman.
Naradevatvam
Naradevatam apanaha.
Surakarya Chikirshaya
Surakarya chikirsaya.
Samudra Nigrahadini
Samudra nigrahadane.
Chakre Viryanyatah Param.
Chakre viryani ataparam. Ladies, respected ladies, don't be shy.
Naradevattvamapannaha
Naradevatvam apanaha.
Surakarya Chikirshaya
Surakarya chikirsaya.
Samudra Nigrahadini
Samudra nigrahadani.
Chakre Viryanyatah Param.
Chakre viryani ataparam.
Naradevatvam apanaha
Naradevatvam apanaha.
Surakarya Chikirsaya
Surakarya chikirsaya.
Samudra Nigrahadini
Samudra nigrahadani.
Chakre Viryani Ataha Param.
Chakre viryani ataparam. One more. One more, lady.
Naradevattvamapanna
Naradevatam apanaha.
Surakarya Chikirshaya
Surakarya chikirsaya.
Samudra Nigrahadini
Samudra nigrahadani.
Chakre Viryanyatah Param.
Sakya viryani param. In the 18th incarnation, the Lord appeared as King Ram. In order to perform some pleasing work for the demigods, he exhibited superhuman powers by controlling the Indian Ocean and then killing the atheist king who was on the other side of the sea. Okay. So that takes us then to the Ramayana. And then here we're looking, that's the idea, it was for different communities. So we've been using the Encyclopedia Britannica. We pay $50 a year to be a member, and that gives us the full articles. And talking to different scholars, it's accepted as an authentic resource in scholarly work. I know professors who immediately fail an entire paper if it has one quote from the Wikipedia. Of course, I guess you can put it in context and squeak it through. You know. But the Britannica, even though it may not even be better, more accurate in some ways, is accepted and has a certain standard. So here there's a nice description of Ramayana, and and its history. The Ramayana was composed in Sanskrit probably not before 300 BC but before Christian era, 300 before Christian era, by the poet Valmiki, and its present form consists of some 24,000 couples divided in 7 books. Let's have a question here. That leads us then to, in world classical literature, to the science and the Vedas, another topic working on the dating process. Yeah. Okay. And then here's a summary, a very nice summary from the Britannica, which is pretty good. Yes, it's a whole area, because our basic presentation would be that it's been passed down accurately from when it happened. The pastimes of Ram actually happened about 1 million years ago. And so it takes us into a whole different view of the world, and a whole different discussion. And some people will, not like it until they die. Other people will be inclined to accept it very quickly. It's not bad, it's interesting. And understand by hearing. Okay. So then we go ahead here in this presentation. All the Shrutis or Vedas personified offer glories to the Lord again and again, singing Jai, Jai. This is from the Bhagavatam, chapter 87, Krishna book 87, which is prayers, but Vedas personified. So all the Shrutis, personified Vedas, glorify the Lord, singing Jai, Jai. This indicates that the Lord is the most glorious. Of all his glories, the most important is his causeless mercy upon the conditioned souls in reclaiming them for the clutches of Maya. A very, very important verse for us, consolidating our appreciation for the Bhagavatam. Because at one point we realized very, very deeply, we realized that we didn't want to leave the material world. Whatever activities we were engaged in, spiritual life, religious life, were just for more fame, prestige, sense gratification, celestial pleasures. You know, and we really see that basically we had a desire just to stay here and enjoy this world, enjoy the 14 worlds. You know? And then we became depressed because we didn't want to. Then we came across this verse, Krishna's arrangement, a few days later, and it says Krishna has so many potencies. If you want to stay here, then he has Maya, and she's a potency which will bewilder our intelligence. You know? But out of all these different potencies, the foremost is this causeless mercy upon the conditioned souls in reclaiming them from the clutches of Maya. So we have to try our best, but on the other side, we can become convinced that Krishna will never give up on us. It reminds me of a story from was one devotee, Mogalila, who I knew well, from Prabhupada disciple, but a senior. So at the very end of Prabhupada's manifestation, he was there with Prabhupada, and Prabhupada was, could barely move, and he raised his hand from under the mosquito net. And Tamal Krishna Maharaj and devotees were packing, so Prabhupada could travel that day. And he said, "Oh, Prabhupada wants you to massage his hand." So Moga said, moved under the mosquito net. He said he began to massage Prabhupada's hand. They said it was nothing but basically skin and bone and ligament. Almost all the muscle was gone. He was just fasting, trying to get his liver and stuff to start again. And so, but he said it was so soft. It was just unbelievable. It wasn't human. And then he said he had this experience. Prabhupada was looking at him while he massaged him. And basically the whole bhava was, there is nothing you can do that will be so bad that I will ever let you go, ever abandon you. And he came back to external consciousness and so on. This is Krishna's basic principle. And especially when we actually surrender at the time of Diksha, formally, second initiation, we meet Krishna and we agree, I am your servant. In the mode of goodness, we say this. Then at that point, Ram says, from that point, I give him all protection so he can come back to me. This is my eternal vow. So, salvation is one thing, but we want the service after salvation. And we're mentioning some of the pastimes with, a crow attacks Sita, Kamyavan, Setu Bandhu, and Shokban. This is in, of course, in the Ramayana, and it's there in the, in Vrindavan. In Vrindavan, there's Kamyavan. It's one of the 12 forests, and there's so many monkeys there. I see herds. We call them herds, troops of monkeys. So many, And why are they there? Nobody can really understand this. Well, because there's an Ashokban where Hanuman is delivering the ring. There's a Setabandhu, the bridge to jump across to Lanka. These things are there and respected and worshipped. And of course, the hypothesis is, okay, these are related to the original things 1 million years ago, and they're all a part of Vrindavan. Everything is in Vrindavan. And so we investigate these things from an esoteric level. But definitely, Ashokban is part of the Ramayana and is still worshipped and respected. And of course, we participate in Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement by chanting Japa, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare. Chanting the Kirtan by ourselves, chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram. And together with other devotees, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, 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 Hare Hare. And that's the essence of entering into these pastimes. And of course, books are there being passed on by the acharyas. So here's a short list of world classical literature, including Imitation of Christ, a Christian. It's a very good book. I mean, I recommend all of these for devotees, of course. In English, of course, there's Hamlet. You know, Prabhupada apparently gave an entire class on the Merchant of Venice. Gopi Puranadana told me when he was in London. And then he said he found a Bengali translation. I think it was called Venetia Vanik. Venetia Vanik. So Prabhupada's very, appreciating, Shakespeare and how it fits into our movement. In Spanish, of course, we have Don Quixote with Edith Grossman. And then we also including El Aleph by Jorge Luis Borges. India, of course, we're putting Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and Ramayana, both of which are the Veda-based. And Arabian, we have Arabian Nights, 1001 Tales by Robert Irwin, Amazon. And that one, we read it, it was a little bit gross, the stories and so on. In China, Journey to the West, we have Anthony C.U. And all these things, if you want to understand different cultures, if you're Indian, and you want to understand Christians, Spanish people, Arabians, and Chinese people. I had one very big, big monastic leader, in China commenting. He said, yes, if you want to understand Chinese people, you have to understand Journey to the West. Very, very deep. Then, of course, we're mentioning going into these things, Carl Jung. And of course, that's been our kind of like our focus has come out of all of this. And where we're having good results. So I think that's all we have in the second one here. I'm looking it up. The third one, I can just kind of look at it. Well, yeah, that's two princes. That's Hamlet and Arjuna, in detail. And let's see, Chaitanya Charan sent us a link for a scholarly article which is pointing out the timeliness. The lasting timeliness of Shakespeare in English language. I haven't read it yet, but that's what happens. We start meeting people, we start knowing our areas. So we're going to we had our first two monks podcasts. Let me see if I have these here. I have Dominican. I don't have them anywhere here, it looks like. Okay, let's go back up one level in Sankirtan. See if we can find anything. No, this is Diary of a Traveling Creature still. Okay. And okay. So we don't see anything on our monks podcasts that we were doing. That's part of the problem, is trying to sort all these things out and put it in one place. Okay. So it's kind of what we're doing. And then right along this, how are we working? Well, we're working out of diaries. We'll kind of finish here. What I'm doing is I'm presenting this so everybody can work on their own Sankirtan preaching, because we're meeting people on the Monks podcast on the third one. It'll be on Thursday morning. And then we're going to talk about the progress we've made. Know a lot about one thing and a little about other things, many things. So the first one we did, I think, was world classical literature, Hamlet and Arjuna. And we went right into Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati and Carl Jung, building a bridge between these two. And then after that, then we had more progress. And he wanted to do more presentations, but I was saying, no, let's just stick with this one topic here for a while until we can get a strong, focus like that. It will be easier to include other things, because other things are unlimited. So many preaching areas. And so we have to work together, building a team for preaching in different ways like that. So this next Monks podcast will continue. And Carl Jung. Yeah, because after that, then we actually met Shona Shamdashini, as you know. We'll be able to make a report about that and the results of that. And also the general perspective that we're seeing, because it's not just some preaching success. So we did this program at this college, we did this program at the University of Virginia, all these things are being carried on within an ambience, which especially is our Sangha, our association. What kind of association do we have? We have association by physical proximity. Some people belong to what's a place called Richmond, Richmond, Virginia. Others belong to, New Biharbon and Boise, Idaho. Others, Peru, Lima, okay. And you have your local Sangha. It's a reality. We have to learn how to do this. And we're trying to promote now that people should start becoming even more local. Doesn't mean just within automobile driving distance, forget that. Or even by, airport connections so much. But now, you really have to learn how to live in the village. Krishna, I think it's our lesson Krishna's giving us. And so we're going to try and do that, show that, and make it a nice transition. And then, yes, there'll be international travel. There'll be travel in the city, but people who are successful in our preaching will be on people who learn to live locally, and develop local scholars and local medicine, all these things, So, going ahead with the Monks podcast, and I couldn't find any more on that. Maybe it's about it here. What do we have? Anyway, I got to now see what the work I have to do. I have to find this. That's our problem, is trying to organize all this, especially as our short-term memory is falling apart and there's so many things we have. So using this one USB drive to physically, store stuff and then try to sort it out, and then post it on the web. That's our process now. So any questions or comments about Sankirtan here? Oh yeah, so the way we're working now, okay, we're working here, I'll do that, is we're keeping these diaries of a traveling creature, okay? And of course we have the physical copy. I might turn your camera on again, okay, it will. I guess I got to kill I want to, reduce this. Somewhere here is probably the options. Go to meeting. Options. Okay, that's not it. Go to meeting. Where is it? Where can I find how to turn off my? Probably it's down here. Okay, there we go. Show background. Doesn't work. Okay. I'm sure what happened here. Okay. Yeah. Anybody know how to turn off the backgrounds?
Guru Maharaj, could you try reset? And
I did that. It asked permission, then it did it. Okay.
Okay, then pick the top one. It just shows the camera. Above Govardhan. Okay, now we can see.
Okay, it's interesting. It's not so interesting now. You got behind me my curtain there. Okay, so we're doing these diary of a traveling creature. And everybody's different. I mean, some people find it's very useful. So what we do is we're using Kama Gayatri Devi Das. He gave us some very, very nice, nice paper. Stuff's not cheap, but it has texture to it. And so when you write on it, then it creates a certain texture and feeling. And also it's very thick, so you can write on both sides of the paper. So and we're trying to use these, to collect our thoughts, to consolidate. Okay. Here was 2021, August 19th. Okay. And of course, you got to be able to photo reduce these things and everything else. Yeah. And the other ones, some idea. And somebody says these are trash. We agree. That's okay. Like that. Okay. Now that we have Now that we have a firm grasp of reality, These are trash. Let's understand that Jack London, one of the greatest authors in the history of the world, he said, before you can write even 10 words, I guess 100 words worth publishing, you've got to write 10,000 words of trash. So start writing trash. And some of us, of course, may take 1,000,000 words of trash before we can get something out. So it's one of the basic principles. Just go ahead and just looking at other people who are doing journaling and drawing and stuff, and it's very stimulating. And after this, at 9 o'clock, we're going to have a meeting with Ambarish Mataji and our director for the movie, and talking about them making a trailer, for our movie. Okay, it's coming along in many ways. People getting involved. The ideas are there, and the money's there. We got the camera, of course. We're taking that. That was a big job. Packing the camera. You can't carry it in the suitcase. So I have to, pack it in a old, raisin box. It's like so much work. Everything a devotee does, Prabhupada says, is bhakti yoga. It pushes you onto the mental platform. So I'm trying to figure out what is the essence of my office here. What are the essence of the literature I have? And I knew it. It's forcing me to go through all these books and files, and Srinivas knows in some ways it's a mess, but not completely. And sort out everything, and then everything has to fit into 2 suitcases of 50 pounds. And so it's kind of like, at the time of death, you get maybe your carry-on bag. But maybe they're going to let you also carry, 2 suitcases, 50 pounds. So what is our life? What do we need? We could die at any moment. And also, even though we're dying physically, we're pushed into new projects. We have to do different things in life. And some people, it's just, they can't handle it. They kill themselves. If you know somebody who lost a very significant person in their life, mother, father, sister, wife, brother, son, friend, okay, somebody who lost a significant person, and then somebody who's had to change their residence, they had to move, Okay. And the third thing is they had to change their job. Okay. Had to move, different location, change their job, and lost somebody significant. Keep a very, very close eye on them, because they are a very, very high risk candidate for suicide. Arjuna, he wanted to commit suicide, had to change his relationship with people. So death comes in many ways. And journals are Carl Jung, everybody else, probably keeping journals. Bhakti Siddhanta kept journals, Bhakti Vinod Thakur. And you reread them, and it's a way of storing thoughts, perspectives, attitudes, externally, if we're not all blessed being, with Shrutidars. And then also beyond that, what we've been developing also, 2 things. After all this journalism, this is kind of like our summary of journalism is, developing stuff. 8.5 by 11 is not bad, because then you can photocopy it very easily. And you can put it on your scanner and distribute it, and people can look at it and make suggestions and get impetus. The other thing, of course, we'll finish here, is then what do you call it? Is actually PowerPoint shows. And it's a nice way to store your knowledge. So this is the PowerPoint we've been working on, and then I can just forward this stuff very easily, cut and paste. It's Diary of a Traveling Creature. Okay, and somehow or other it's not big enough here. Okay, and this starts from, and also I'm learning so many new things about PowerPoint, different tricks and stuff. For example, you can insert very easily as a header the time and date stamp, which is very nice then for each of your pages. So it started Tuesday, September 14th, which is going to be up. We'll try to go from Ekadasi to Ekadasi. Diary of a Traveling Creature, and here we have very, very iconic with Piggy, represents the body, and Monkey, running along on him, maybe helping him. Then we saved this from before. This is very, very nice. That representation. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. It's very nice to keep in front of you while you're chanting. And of course, Nishingadev, we call him there. And then this is the Song of the Bee, and this one maybe we'd like to integrate. Today we thought we would get to this, but we just won't be able to get to it. Is they're talking about world classical literature, the Bhagavatam, the Krishna book, especially focusing on these 1-2 chapters where Krishna sends Uddhava to Vrindavan, and then Uddhava preaches to the gopis, has his summary. So we're seeing this as being very nice perspective on Hanumatpresaka, Das, and then Uddhavat, Presaka Das. And of course, we're asking the question: Did Uddhava, think about Hanuman and his activities and challenges he met and everything else when he was trying to carry out the mission for Krishna? Not impossible. Actually, such an intelligent person may have very well been contemplating this. So integrating these two pastimes, also very, very nice meditation. Vande Nanda Brajastrinam Padarenum Abhishnasaha Yasham Hari Katod Gitam Punati Bhuvana Trayam. I offer my respectful obeisances to the ladies of Nanda Maharaja's Raja, continuously to the dust from their feet. Their loud chanting of the glories of Hari, and it purifies the three worlds. So there it is. Purify the world you see, experience with your senses. Purify the world of the sky around us, and which is common thinking world. And then finally purify the three, all the way to Goloka and everything else. So how much are we chanting? Just with our lips? Is our mind involved? If we do that, then all the other minds around us, on the middle platform, are going to be experiencing our chanting. Yeah. So very important when somebody passes away, they're on the middle platform, that we create a middle atmosphere for them. Okay. Then here's Uddhava's, nice picture. All the gopis are, there's so much separation from Krishna, talking to, giving him education. Uddhava Sandesh. We have I guess maybe we downloaded it. This is where, I think it's Rupa Goswami. This is where Krishna actually sends Uddhava. A very, very nice movie of this, Hindi movie I'd like to find. Okay. Then here's the gopis offering their respects to Krishna. Okay. And his glorification. And then Sundarakanda, these have pictures so far, is that Ram gave his ring to Hanuman. There's another monkey just like Hanuman behind him. Upadeshamrita. And then Jatayu, his brother Sampati, he told him that Ravana was across the ocean. So Hanuman flew there, creating a great havoc, and landed and found Sita in the Ashokvan and delivered the message, the ring, as proof, and stayed in talk with her for some time. All these things are a part of this thing. That after people, give you a full set order and take the Ramayana immediately, nectar of instruction immediately. Yeah, then they want to talk about spiritual life and have to get them properly tuned in. Then he burned down Lanka, went back to Ram, and Ram said, "Now you are our fifth brother." So Hanuman is in Dasyaras with Samsakya. And Panchamukha Hanuman, someone gave us, which is a whole other story, fighting the ghosts and demons. That's kind of what we have. And so we're collecting some of these things, like this is Bhakti Siddhanta and Carl Gustav Jung. I have to send something today to Chaitanya Charan. And these are very important things because we see here directly the two scholars. Bhakti Siddhanta was born 1874, Carl Gustav Jung 1875. Bhakti Siddhanta was right there, passing along with Bhakti A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami through the industrialization of Asia. And Carl Jung was right here at the basis of the industrialization of the West. And so now we're coming to the point where we have to back up. We have to eliminate a lot of the poison that's got in because of this, but don't lose the essence, what was good. So looking into people who were founders in developing this, we can do that very nicely. So it's a very, very important project. And looking at our many people, for us as devotees, we're in many ways quite adept in this. But outside people really need some guidance in terms of their history and perspective. And of course, we're trying to preach to, what can you say? You know, professors, academic people like that, everybody, but this is our nature in some way. So everybody preaching. And then, what's his name? Shonisham Dasani, very nice. He gave us this link. Okay, before we meet again, and this time let's meet more seriously. And yeah, next time we can record some things and maybe we'll start working together, publishing some things, distributing them for your neos. So he recommended Psychology of Yoga and Meditation, lectures delivered at ETH. And I've started reading it. I've got maybe about through out of 20 out of 500 pages, and it's very interesting. It's a little tedious, but not much. It's just interesting in so many ways. You know, who are these people nowadays? And then Jung's comprehension of it was 1935. He was so much advanced over his local things, and that's what Shoner Shambhashini says. Maybe even more. And by the way, it was $21.08. I bought it. Okay, some different things we did here and there, which we've been saving. Okay, there's a very nice thing from Bhama Samhita. Simply Wonderful Friday. That was a program we did, of course, with the Houston. We're going there. Yeah, it was a very, very nice presentation. We're very satisfied. And then Radhastami. Okay, that's just about it. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Something. Oh yeah, we did one also about Balaram. Okay. So it's kind of our little presentation of where we are in terms of Srimad Bhagavatam. Does anybody else have any comments or questions or complaints?
Hare Krishna Gurudeva, please accept my humble obeisance.
Oh, please accept mine.
Yeah. I have a comment, Gurudeva. I don't know how to exactly, the more I read, somehow I end up with too many questions, Gurudeva. I think what I'm trying to is, I'm trying to get the links. Okay, how this is connected, how this is connected. For example, today I'm reading Brihad Bhagavatamrita, where there is a conversation between Prahalada and Narada. And this conversation are supposed to happen in Satyuga. And Prahalada is talking about Lord Hanuman. And he is talking about Lord Hanuman is more blessed than me because Lord has assigned certain services to him. But Lord hasn't assigned any services to me other than giving my kingdom to rule. So Hanuman happened in Treta Yuga and he happened in Satya Yuga. How did he came to know these things? And so my mind is going behind and trying to put these things in proper logical order. And is that something reasonable, Gurudeva, or I'm thinking too much?
Yeah, but that's the whole thing. Boy, this word logic, what you have, again, it's the amazing thing is that so many scientists have PhDs, right? Big scientists, But what does PhD mean?
Philosophy of education or something.
Have a title, you don't even know what your title means. I think probably they know, but there are leaders and Philosophicus Doctorus, PhD, Philosophicus Doctorus. You can look up docent or things like that. Doctor is a teacher. Doctor. You're a teacher of philosophy. Philo means love, and Sophie means wisdom. Many translations. So you're somebody who can teach people to love wisdom, which is like Bhakti Vedanta. The same concept. But they've taken it down from teaching people to develop a certain attitude and a certain motivation, pure motivation, loving wisdom, to knowing, not even wisdom, just to the gross knowing. And so that, and then they're saying, okay, we are physicists, we are scientists, we decide how the world is, we decide what time is, and here's where we're based upon direct perception and logic, these two things, pratyaksha and anumana. But in their logic, they don't know what the term logic means. In Christianity, the logic is, the logos is Jesus Christ. The logos is the guru. The logos is that which takes us between back and forth. So when it gets down to it, their logical view, of course, is mathematics and how it's developed from being able to count to being able to go to arithmetic, being able to go to algebra, geometry, analytical geometry, calculus, Laplace transforms. So they developed a whole kind of logic like that. It's a big topic, science and the Vedas. But the basic principle is that it's quite provincial. They accept certain principles without even really examining them. They accept Euclidean geometry. And you start looking at Euclidean geometry, there are certain principles in there which are axioms. And that means you've got to accept them. You can approach anybody in this area and you can say, do you accept as axiomatic truth the postulates of Euclid? And they know what would happen. They may start growling and flapping their arms and hissing or something. And different people, some responding might say, wow, I never thought about that. Because yes, these are blind faith, not blind, well, something, Yeah, but it's just as blind as any religion is going to present in terms of accepting. And without Euclid, you cannot have a point. How much mathematics is eliminated if you haven't got points? A lot. Yeah. So anyway, that's the point, is that they have their logic, a way of looking at things, putting things in logical sequence. They apply that to time. Time is a line. It goes one direction. There are no breaks or branches. Every step is just the same size. Okay. Sound like a certain national perspective on life. Yeah. But look at the cross-cultural studies on time. For example, your motor's turning in your car, right? And you got the flywheel and you put a strobe light on that. You know this process for setting the timing on an automobile?
I don't know, Gurudeva.
Okay. So it's going around at a certain speed, shooting a strobe light on it. And what happens is that one mark on there, because you're shooting, the strobe light is blinking, it makes that mark stand still. Okay, apparently, it's on the motor rotator. Okay, so now on the motor itself, there's another line. Okay, so you can adjust this so that the two are like a little advanced or a little bit separated, and that's of course when the gasoline is ignited in the cylinder. Okay. So linear time, this is going around again and again and again. The story of Nrsimhadev is going around again and again. The story of Ramayana is going around again and again. So the Brihad Bhagavatamrita, as far as I understand, is dealing with these things not on the level of Bhumandala. Right? It's that he's going to these different platforms where these abodes exist, for a much more subtle platform. It says stories that are going over again. So yeah, which comes first, spring or summer?
Spring, Gurudeva. As for
yeah, so it has no meaning. So which comes first, the pastimes of Ram or the pastimes of Prahlad? In that general sense, in this time, in this Kali, this Divya Yuga, okay, getting down in there. But from a broader perspective, that's one thing right away, because he's taking these journeys, and it's to a more subtle level. It's like people. How many times do you think people have presented Hamlet? How many times do you think the play Hamlet has been presented? 10 times? 100 times?
Maybe
1,000 times?
Yeah.
10,000 times. I mean, not just like presentation for 1 week in one theater. Every single time you present it in a theater, if you know what you have any experience, it's different. The actors, as soon as they come off the stage, they'll tell each other, "Oh, this audience is dead. Oh, this audience is and so they know right away what they have to put into it in terms of the audience. So every time, and then sometimes it's a long play, so things are cut out, and things are not presented every time the same way. And of course, The Lion King is a modern presentation of Hamlet. They say it is based on that. So this is the actual. So one thing I would say that basically is that these things are occurring again and again. And so you talk about Hamlet and you compare it with the Ramayana or Mahabharata. Yeah, then you're talking about not a specific presentation. You can talk about a specific presentation, but you're talking about the general concept, the idea, the perspective, and then you start seeing exactly these kind of things you're saying. That Prahlad Maharaj was given, he's offered with prayers to learn the Sringadev, but he wasn't given a specific service like Hanuman, go and do this, do that for me. Is that okay?
Yes, Gurudeva. Especially the line I like is the continuous, Gurudeva. Especially, I always break things thinking that Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapara Yuga, Kali Yuga, period. One is ended and then freshly started again. I never thought of that. Okay, Kali Yuga again goes back to Satya Yuga. That means Kali Yuga is first, Satya Yuga is last. It's a continuous cycle. One feeds the second. I never put in that perspective, Gurudev. I think that's a wonderful one, actually.
Okay. Now you've got to transfer it into programming. Programming format.
Yeah, maybe my brain is thinking like that, Gurudev, because of my work nature or something. I always have these kind of I don't know, stupid questions or something. Same thing goes with the Yamadutas versus Devaduta.
You can generate a new programming approach.
Thank you, Gurudev.
This is a Brahmachari harmonium.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. Please accept
Hare
my humble
Krishna.
obeisance.
What does Yale stand for? Yale's an acronym, right?
No, Guru Maharaj. I think Subhapi said something yesterday or the day before.
That was the history. It was somebody's name, but we know it. We know behind it there's something secret.
Oh, I see. I don't know.
Yovananta Riksha Lakshana. Yeah. You can start spreading that around. You can start putting up little sticky notes around the university. the secret meaning of Yale.
Yeah. So Guru Maharaj, one comment I have is of all the potencies of Krishna, the one when you're pointing out that his mercy to reclaim the conditioned soul, I was thinking, I mean, if that's the most merciful one, and it is so difficult, and how difficult must be to deal with other potencies.
Yeah.
Getting out of Maya is not so easy. I mean, if he is giving his full mercy and that's his most kindness to get us out, and it's more difficult than getting people out of Afghanistan, when Taliban took over. Reclaiming the conditioned souls is so difficult, so tough dealing with Maya.
Yeah. But that's the whole thing. As soon as we surrender, it becomes the size of the hoofprint of water in the hoofprint of a calf.
So does that mean?
Yeah.
Does that mean we don't have the mercy yet? Say, for example, if you have problems.
We're talking about right now.
If you have problems.
Have you? For example, Prabhupada came to France. Last told me, and all the devotees, of course, French devotees love to fight. And so many problems they're going to bring to Prabhupada about this problem, that person, these things, that. And then, so the first lecture, somebody started bringing it up, and Prabhupada said, "Mam Mara Baba Ma Bhakto, Mam Yaji Mam Namaskuru. Do you have any problems?" And the devotee thought, well, no. This went on 3 times, and the third time, all the devotees just started laughing and smiling because that was it. They just forgot, Krishna and Krishna consciousness, and that. As soon as we chant Hare Krishna, with enthusiasm, Hare Krishna, and so much potency is there. I mean, it rise above our mind in so many ways. This of course is industrial. It's what it's institutionalized. You have Gaura Artika. I know it coming to the Gaura Artika is like poof, every day. And whatever progress we're making is pretty much eternal. We come to this human form of life after hundreds of millions of lifetimes, Prabhupada is saying. Hundreds of millions of lifetimes. You're complaining because it's taking you 20 years to like that. Yeah. You look at it. I mean, that's the whole thing. Sometimes Krishna arranges you to see people who were like your peers in college or something. and different things. You saw what's happened to them, and then you can really see, wow, it's a big difference between what they've done and what I've done. So, anyways, different people or different things are happening, but it's just, even if, for example, somebody's breaking the 4 principles for some time, they're not doing it. Like Hansaduta was having these problems, very senior devotee and stuff, associating with him. And he said he was so ashamed that he'd fallen into this, so ashamed. He said he just couldn't bear thinking about having to approach Prabhupada and then just after what he'd done and so on. So even though he was like externally engaged in these different things for different reasons, internally I could feel, all of us could see he's much more advanced than we are. His actual sentiment of the attachment and direct experience to Prabhupada and what he's doing, So different things happen externally, but it's still, we don't want to be offensive. We want to really try, even when these waves are coming, and they may carry us away in different ways. Okay, but we're always chanting our rounds, following principles, and Krishna protects those things, and he uses the other things for us to experience, to make progress. And the progress is there. Maybe some people are making more progress more faster. Okay, we admit, it's not Krishna's lack of enthusiasm, it's ours. But just somehow or other hang out with this movement, somehow or other, don't commit offenses, stay on the property, and you'll make progress. I know directly devotees, commenting like that. And okay. So is that some perspective on your preoccupation?
Yeah, yes, Guru Maharaj, but I'm not yet convinced that if his most merciful thing is still so problematic. How, for example, okay, we have ISKCON, we have devotional lives and everything. Why is the reclaiming process so miserable? Why can't it be better?
Yeah.
So it's so rough. The path is so rough. The path of advancement is so rough.
But Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati said, if you find your path covered with rosebuds, you're in Maya. So if you find your path covered with thorns, you're on the right path. Because you're so advanced. Again, it's so many details. That's why there's so many stories, because sometimes we're not doing it properly. We're out of pride or so many things. We're actually perverting the process in subtle ways, and therefore there's not a pure reaction. On the other hand, it's just that we shouldn't expect psychological, material, social, benefit, all these kind of things out of it. How much am I becoming? One simple standard: how much am I becoming more and more determined to actually follow the process? And I can see that. It's just that it's becoming deeper and deeper. Well, this is happening, that's happening. Yeah, but if I stop chanting my rounds and getting up in the morning, that's not going to improve it. I can see that this process is so powerful. Yeah, Christian process, Saint Xavier. Okay, but that's it's a same process. Yeah, but what we have is many ways. Yes, very good. We can take other things. Probably not opposed to that. Yeah. But I mean, do you want to leave ISKCON? You want to leave?
No, I'm thinking why doesn't Krishna inspire us to love him more and more? Ultimately, if we have love, we can do anything, right? So even if we chant,
what does Bhaktivinoda Thakur say about his mind? What does Bhaktivinoda Thakur say about his mind?
The multiple things, Dustamana or something, or in many
he says
bhajans,
He says my wicked mind.
Yeah, Dustamana, yes.
I mean, would you like people to be able to see your thoughts all day?
That's the worst one, I think so, Gurudeva.
Yeah, would you like people to be able to read your mind all day? Srinivas?
Maybe sometimes, but probably not all the time. Yeah.
Even your close family members, you don't want them to have to experience some of the nasty thoughts your mind comes up with. Yeah. So Jayananda told me that. He said,
But why doesn't Krishna? So when we make a commitment, Krishna, I want to come to you, I want to love you. Why doesn't he help us to love him?
He is. That's the whole point. But with the commitment is first initiation is I'll chant my round. Second initiation, we're talking about okay, I'll keep myself as a Brahmin, a Dvija. I'll keep myself on that platform. I agree for this lifetime, I'll do that. Hey, but what's that? Many thousands of people, one person begins to figure out it's important. Yeah, and out of many thousands of those, one actually becomes a Brahmin. Yeah. But that's just general. We're still not surrendering. I don't want to talk to the king. I want to live in the kingdom. I want to follow his laws. When he goes by in a public procession, I'll wave and smile, and I'll think how nice is the king. You know? They said, well, you want to come in and work on a project? We're going to try and drain the swamp here, and you want to participate, you have some experience. And then you start Paramatma. You start sitting there with the king and, you know, and the duke or something count. And it starts to be a different thing, is that now you can talk to the deities at this point. You know, in a formal way, but you realize, well, this is not, what do you call it? This is not Sahaja. I'm actually something here, and I'm feeling like expressing my sentiments, and Krishna's responding, and okay, you know, yeah. But oh boy, then it starts to become, you start to see how much is that we aren't following. Like myself, I had too much. Last night it was such a tumultuous day, changing everything else like that. And finally I had 2 programs back to back, everything else. So after that, my body was like, you know, dying. So I had some pudding, but I just stopped at the first helping, you know. But then no, I had more. And so is it Krishna's fault that I'm suffering? No, he's trying to yell at me, don't eat the second cup of pudding. Don't eat it. No. So hopefully now I've learned this lesson. Probably have, you know. I've seen so many things I've given up, which before I was doing, which, you know, Prabhupada says you have to eat late at night, eat potatoes. Okay, so I'm kind of limiting it to that. 1088.8. Okay, so you got to stop here and go ahead and suffer some more uselessly. Curse God for not being the biggest part of the bargain. You know, I'm such a sincere devotee. Why don't you? More mercy. Yeah. Okay. Thank you all very many. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much.
So many nice things in the chat.
Thank you very much, Gurudeva.
Thank you, Gurudeva.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Gurudeva.
Hare Krishna.